New York City is staring down a massive fiscal cliff, and the mayor's parachute involves picking the pockets of the exact people trying to flee the city.
It really is a textbook shakedown. And the math behind it just exposes a massive spending addiction.
Welcome to the deep dive. We are unpacking a huge story today. It is February 2026, and New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani just released a preliminary budget with a mind-blowing $5.4 billion deficit for fiscal year 2027.
Right. A $5.4 billion hole.
And to plug that hole, he has issued this really nerdy ultimatum to Governor Kathy Hochul and the state legislature in Albany.
Yeah, he essentially told them to either pass legislation to hike taxes on the wealthy and corporations, or he's going to raise New York City property taxes by 9.5%.
Plus, he wants to raid the city's rainy day fund.
Exactly. He is calling the property tax hike a last resort that would hurt working families. But really, he is just holding homeowners hostage to get his preferred tax-the-rich plan passed.
And this is all happening while the total sitter budget has absolutely exploded to $127 billion.
Driven by massive spending on new programs like Universal 3K and the city FHEPS rental assistance.
So our mission today is to unpack this so-called Mamdani mandate. We are going to expose the fuzzy math behind his whole tax-the-rich rhetoric and explain why the experts are saying that his spending is the real problem here, not a lack of revenue.
Yeah. Whether you live in a city or not, you really need to hear this. It is a masterclass in how government spending just relentlessly grows and how politicians twist statistics to hide the true cost of their socialist policies.
So let's start with this ultimatum. He gave Albany two paths in this February 2026 financial plan. Path one is his dream scenario, right?
Right. Path one is the state authorizes a millionaire's tax. That means raising city income tax rates and hiking corporate taxes.
But the city can't do that alone. They need state approval.
Exactly. Which brings us to path two, the so-called last resort. If Albany says no, the city uses its own power to raise the property tax rate from 12.28% to 13.45%.
Which is a 9.5% jump.
A massive 9.5% jump. And he would draw down nearly $1 billion from the rainy day fund.
It's literally extortion. Tax the rich or grandma gets it. And let's be super clear about who pays property taxes. Fox Business highlighted this perfectly.
Yeah, they did.
Mamdani himself admits that the property tax hike hits working and middle-class New Yorkers. We are talking about people with a median income of about $122,000.
Right. In New York City, $122,000 doesn't make you rich.
No.
That is a cop and a nurse trying to raise kids in Queens. That is a retired guy living on Staten Island. A 9.5% hike on their property tax bill is absolutely crushing.
It crushes the middle class. But he is using them as leverage. He figures the governor won't want the political blame for a property tax spike, so she'll cave and let him tax the high earners?
That is the political calculation. But, as the Empire Center noted in their analysis, this ultimatum completely ignores a third path.
Cutting spending.
Imagine that, cutting spending.
It's a foreign concept in City Hall. But let's look at that spending. Because a $5.4 billion deficit doesn't just happen by accident.
No, it takes effort to lose that much money. The proposed budget for 2027 is $127 billion. Just to give you some context, the 2025 budget was $118 billion.
So spending jumped nearly $9 billion in just 2 years. Where is all that taxpayer money going?
Well, according to the city's own financial plan data, agency expenses are through the roof. The big drivers are massive increases in the Department of Social Services and Education.
And this isn't just inflation. The Step 2 policy project pointed out that the deficit exists because the city launched massive progressive programs it just couldn't afford.
Right. They expanded city FHEPS, which is a rental assistance program, and they rolled out Universal 3K.
Free preschool for 3-year-olds.
Exactly. It sounds great on a campaign flyer, but it is an enormous recurring expense. You don't just pay for it once. And they started these programs without any long-term plan to pay for them.
And it gets worse. City and state reported that the budget includes $576 million in brand new spending.
This is the part that really shows the fiscal mismanagement.
They are hiring 300 new employees at the law department, 300 lawyers, while claiming they are broke.
Plus another $100 million just for snow clearing. I mean, it snows every year in New York.
Okay.
How is that new emergency spending?
It's ridiculous. Fox Business hit the nail on the head. They said the mayor is trying to fund a socialist dream on a budget that can't support it. And instead of tightening his belt, he's rebranding his spending problem as a revenue crisis.
That is exactly what is happening. He is saying, we didn't spend too much, You just didn't give us enough of your paycheck.
Which brings us to the craziest justification he uses for taxing the wealthy. He keeps claiming that millionaires have all this spare cash because of Donald Trump.
Yes, the big windfall myth.
Yeah.
Mamdani argues that the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which made the Trump tax cuts permanent in 2025, gave wealthy New Yorkers a $12 billion annual windfall.
He makes it sound like the federal government just handed them bags of cash. But the Empire Center fact-checked this, and they called it directionally wrong.
Directionally wrong is a polite way of saying it is completely false.
Let's break this down for everyone. Why is it false?
It all comes down to the SALT cap, SALT, the state and local tax deduction.
Right.
Before the 2017 tax laws, wealthy people in high-tax states like New York could deduct their massive city and state taxes from their federal tax bill.
It was basically a coupon. The rest of the country was subsidizing New York's high taxes.
Exactly. But the Trump tax laws cap that deduction at $10,000.
And if you are a millionaire in New York City, your local taxes are way, way higher than $10,000.
Oh, massively higher. So losing that unlimited deduction completely wiped out any benefit they got from lower federal tax rates.
The numbers on this are actually wild.
They are. The effective federal tax rate for New York City millionaires actually went up. It rose from 27.8% to 28.1% after the salty cap hit.
So they didn't get a tax cut at all.
No. In 2022 alone, New York City millionaires paid $2 billion more in federal taxes. Not less, more.
So this $12 billion windfall that the mayor is using to justify his tax hike is just completely made up.
It is a total fiction. High earners in New York City already carry the highest combined tax burden in the entire country. The mayor is just gaslighting the public to justify grabbing more of their money.
Gaslighting is the perfect word for it, because he also uses this sneaky little trick when he talks about the size of the tax hike.
Oh, the percentage point trickery. This is a classic political scam.
Yeah, he goes around on television saying he only wants a 2% raise in taxes on the wealthy. Just 2%.
Which sounds totally reasonable to the average person. If your grocery bill goes up 2%, it is annoying, but it doesn't bankrupt you.
But city and state actually did the math on what he is proposing. He is not raising taxes by 2%. He is raising the rate by 2 percentage points.
There is a massive difference. The current city tax rate for high earners is about 3.88%.
And he wants to bump it to 5.88%.
Right. Moving from a 3.88 to 5.88 is adding 2 percentage points. But if you calculate the actual increase in the tax bill, that is a 52% increase.
A 52% increase. That is insane. If a business owner paid $100,000 in city taxes last year, suddenly they owe over $150,000.
That is not a tiny 2% tweak. That is a hostile takeover of someone's income.
And what happens when you do that? The taxpayers just leave.
They are already leaving. New York's share of the national millionaire population fell from 12.7% back in 2010 to just 8.7% in 2022.
They are packing up their businesses and taking their tax dollars to Florida or Texas.
You can't blame them. And keep in mind, the top 1% of earners pay 40% of the total income tax in the city.
40%?
Yeah. If you chase them away with a 52% tax hike, your revenue doesn't go up. It collapses. And then who gets stuck holding the bag?
The middle class. The people paying that 9.5% property tax hike.
Exactly. You eventually run out of other people's money.
But wait, the mayor has one last desperate argument. He says New York City is being cheated by the rest of the state.
Ah, yes, the drain.
He claims the city contributes 54.5% of state revenue, but only gets 40.5% back in funding. So he says the city is getting ripped off.
The Step 2 policy project took a hard look at this and found that the 54.5% number is totally inflated.
How so?
Because it includes all the taxes paid by commuters, people who drive or take the train into Manhattan for work, but they actually live and vote in the suburbs.
Ah, so when you only count actual New York City residents, what happens to that number?
It drops to 46.7%.
Yeah.
Which is way closer to what they get back.
But even beyond the fake math, there is this hilarious hypocrisy here.
Oh, the philosophical contradiction is amazing. Mayor Mamdani is a proud democratic socialist.
Right. His entire political brand is about redistributing wealth. From each according to his ability to each according to his need.
Exactly. Progressives constantly argue that wealthy school districts should subsidize poorer districts. Wealthy zip codes should fund programs for lower income areas.
But suddenly, when New York City is the wealthy area funding the rest of upstate New York, he hates redistribution.
Right. Now he wants a quote-unquote return on investment. It's a totally conservative, market-based argument that he is suddenly adopting just because his budget is busted.
It just shows you that the ideology goes right out the window when the government actually runs out of cash.
Absolutely.
So let's summarize this disaster. Mayor Mamdani has spent New York City into a $5.4 billion hole to fund his progressive wish list.
And he is using debunked math, like the Trump windfall myth, to justify a massive tax hike.
He is deliberately misleading voters by calling a 52% tax increase a tiny 2% raise.
And if the state legislature calls his bluff, he is going to punish working-class homeowners with a 9.5% property tax spike.
It is a dangerous game of chicken. You cannot spend your way out of debt, and you cannot tax your way into prosperity.
History shows that every single time a city tries this, the wealth just leaves. Capital is mobile.
It really is. And that leaves us with a pretty terrifying final thought for you to chew on.
Let's hear it.
The city budget is loaded with spending for things like free buses and endless aid for asylum seekers. But the wealthy taxpayers are fleeing. The million population is down 4 percentage points in just over a decade.
A mass exodus of the people actually funding the system.
Right. So if the top earners continue to pack up their moving vans, how long until there is no one left to pay for all these freebies but you?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay sharp, watch your wallet, and we will catch you next time.